What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my review for Bring Her Back. This is the newest film from the Philippou brothers, Danny and Michael, who first popped up on my radar back in 2022 when we got the release of their full-length film directorial debut, Talk to Me, and what a debut that was. I think Talk to Me is a fantastic movie. It was a top 10 film of the year for me that year, back when me reviewing movies was just in a little notebook that me and my girlfriend used to write in, and ever since then I have been eagerly awaiting to see what they would be doing next, whether it was the Talk to Me sequel that they've already spoken of or a new and original idea. It did not matter to me. They've already shown me enough to prove that they are a directing duo that is worth paying attention to. So no matter what their next project was, I knew that my ass would be in the seat day one to check it out. Without giving too much away, the basic premise here is you have a brother and sister who tragically lose their father and then are sent away to live with a foster mom, and while there, things take a turn for the bizarre. Now, on paper, that may seem like a bit of a bland description, but it's kind of hard to go into any more detail without spoiling anything, and I fully recommend you go into this movie as blind as possible. That's typically how I operate with horror movies in general, but being that I already had so much faith in this directing duo, I completely put the blinders on for everything dealing with this movie. I didn't look at a poster, I didn't watch a trailer, I didn't read any early reviews. Hell, half the times when I would try to think about this movie, I couldn't even remember the name of it. I wanted to discover everything that this movie had to offer naturally as I am watching it for the first time. So if I haven't made it clear already, my expectations for this movie were pretty high, and luckily for me, my wait for it actually got shortened a bit as I was able to see it several days before its actual release at a Regal Mystery Movie Monday screening, and so I've had some time to really be able to sit and chew on everything I thought about the movie. But before I get into those thoughts, I'd like to ask that while you are here, go ahead and consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews. I would love to have you here. Make sure to also get down in the comments below and tell me all of your thoughts on Bring Her Back or Talk to Me. I'd love to read everything you guys have to say. Now let's get into this review. Starting with the positives, and in terms of directing, this is very much so a continuation of a lot of the things that impressed me so much about Talk to Me. I wouldn't necessarily say it surpasses that movie. Honestly, I don't think it even really came particularly close, but there is still quite a bit of good in here. These guys are only 2 movies in, and already they have been able to establish their own distinct style. They have a very unique vision for horror, and I feel like already moving forward, I don't even need to see their name in the credits to know that I'm watching a movie of theirs. What they do just already stands out that much. They just have an ability to take these very familiar concepts and put their own spin on them and turn them into something completely new. And I've probably already compared this movie too much to Talk to Me, but what I like so much about that movie is that I actually went into it with pretty low expectations, because possession horror is not a subgenre that I typically gravitate towards to all that much. It's a subgenre that I feel is very devoid of creativity oftentimes. A lot of the stuff in them just feels like it's things we've seen get recycled over and over and over again. Everyone's just trying to be the next Exorcist. A lot of the worst tropes in horror pop up in those movies, and it's not like the case you get with slashers where if one is bad you can still have a fun time with it. Typically for me, when a possession movie is bad, it's just bad and hard to watch. But then once I saw Talk to Me, it completely blew me away. They were able to take this very surface level concept of possession and turn it into a metaphor for substance abuse, addiction, and the lengths in which people are willing to go to suppress their feelings of grief, and it just totally revitalized my interest and hope for an entire subgenre. Bring Her Back is very similar in that regard. Like I said, on paper, it sounds like a very simple premise, but in its execution, they are able to spin it and turn it into something more unique, and for the most part, I like what they did with it. I'll get into what didn't work for me so much with it a little bit later. For better or for worse, this movie definitely makes you feel the things it wants you to. Subject matter wise, I actually think it's more accessible than Talk to Me was. I think it's very easy to understand and sympathize with the situation at play for all of the characters involved, while simultaneously being horrified by how things are unfolding. And that's just all due to how well this movie forces you to feel the weight of its very bleak story. The body horror in here is also done very effectively. There were a lot of moments that had me looking away from the screen or squirming up into my chair, and it's all done using really good practical gore, which I think is always the best route to take if you are really looking to gross out your audience. If these brothers have shown anything, it's that they definitely have a knack for the carnage candy. I also really liked all of the performances we got out of the cast here. Billy Barrett, who essentially plays our lead character and the one that we're on the ride with, is really solid in this. Sally Hawkins gives a very layered performance as the foster mom. She's able to give you a feeling of comfortability, but also create this great sense of uneasiness about her. And then, of course, you have Sora Wong, who gave a really impressive performance in this movie. Her character in it is visually impaired, as is she in real life. And the way that she is able to go through all of these very intense and unnerving scenes and give very believable reactions, all while not being able to see all of the fucked up things that are going on around her, was really, really awesome to watch. Getting into the mix now, and this really isn't a critique that has any weight on the movie. It's just a funny story I wanted to tell because these goddamn Philippou brothers, man. So as I mentioned, I saw this movie a bit early at a mystery screening, and so before the movie started, they popped up on the screen, you know, to be like, surprise, you're about to see our new movie, Bring Her Back, and all of that, and it was enjoyable enough up until they started talking about the movie a little bit. Now, as I said, I went into this movie really blind. I hardcore put the blinders on for this movie. I didn't want to see anything about it. And then they just started to discuss certain plot points of the movie and describe something about a certain character, and everything that I had tried to avoid seeing or hearing about before seeing the movie, they just completely unloaded on me right before I'm about to see the movie. And one of them even acknowledged that the other one just spoiled some things. And so this is just, I guess, a funny story, but one that really, really pissed me off. And I just don't get why they felt the need to describe the movie the way they did right before we were about to see it. But these motherfuckers, man. And so this isn't a critique on the movie, just a little funny story that I wanted to share about my movie going experience with Bring Her Back. Moving on to the negatives now, and though I have had quite a bit of nice things to say about this movie, it's actually one that I left the theater pretty disappointed in, and where it loses me is in its third act. And it's the kind of movie where I can pinpoint the exact moment where things stopped working for me. It's in that exact moment that I'm talking about where a risk is taken and a decision is made, and immediately I was like, oh boy, how much of this movie is left? Because the thing that I was invested in the most for the entirety of the story up until this point is now gone. And then the credits rolled, and it stood out even more for me because I realized that they never rebounded from it, and my level of interest in the movie never got back to where it was before. It just felt like from that moment on, everything just got dramatically worse. Sally Hawkins' character, who was someone that I was enjoying for most of the film, started to wear really thin on my nerves and just ended up being a character I was very annoyed with. All of the other characters feel like they're just running around doing stuff for the sake of, ooh, look at that. That's crazy, right? That's fucked up. It even feels like the filmmakers themselves are scrambling, running around, trying to figure out how to land this ship, and none of it satisfied me in any way. For the entirety of the movie, it was really doubling down on its bleak tone, but at the finish line, they, for whatever reason, decide to lay off the gas and attempt to give somewhat of a hopeful ending. But given the tipping point decision that I've alluded to that happened just a little bit earlier, it felt like the least interesting conclusion that this movie could have possibly came to. A bad third act or a bad ending can tank a movie quicker than anything. The prime example I always give for this is Bones and All from a couple of years ago. That's a movie where for mostly all of it, I was absolutely loving it, and it actually has a moment that could have been a good ending, but it speeds right past it and just keeps going and delivers an ending that honestly completely ruined how I felt about the movie. It took a whole probably 1.5 stars off my rating for that movie because that's how bad the ending was. And though there never really was a moment in Bring Her Back where I was loving it, I was enjoying my time with it, but the third act just left a super bitter taste in my mouth. So for Bring Her Back, despite getting a lot of things right, in the end, it is a movie that left me disappointed in it. It may be a movie that's better upon a rewatch. I actually think it's possible that knowing what's coming could be to its benefit, but being how unforgiving and bleak the movie is for like 80 to 90% of its runtime, it's not necessarily a movie that I'm yearning to experience again. If you like Talk to Me, I would still recommend you check this movie out because there is still a lot of what made Talk to Me so good in here, and if the ending doesn't lose you like it lost me, you could come out of the theater actually liking this movie more than Talk to Me. But for anyone that's interested in this movie, unfortunately, I can only recommend that you wait for it to come out on a streaming service, and That's unfortunate because going into this movie, I did not expect to come out feeling that way. I thought me loving this movie was an absolute slam dunk, but that just ended up not being the case. Well, guys, those are all of my thoughts for Bring Her Back. Get down in the comments below and tell me what you think about this movie. Did you like it more or just as much as Talk to Me? Or do you align more with how I felt about the film? I would love to read everything you guys have to say about it. Before you get out of here, make sure you consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews. And I will see everybody in my next one. Peace.